Okay, so now the first section that we'll be dealing with is rounding off. What is rounding off? When we talk about rounding off, we're talking about adjusting the value upwards or eliminating the units depending on the conditions. So this is the principle that you will be using as we round up and round down. Number one, we say if the last digit is less than 5, then we leave out that digit. Or even if it's a decimal, we will leave out the decimal. And then if the last digit or a decimal is more than 4, then we adjust upwards. So I will be referring to this principle as I will be doing the example with you. Okay, and remember we said the decimal place is the position of a digit after a comma. So now let us have a look at the first example. The first example that we have, use the number below to round off 73.639 to the following number 1 to 2 decimal places, number 2 to 1 decimal place. And remember what decimal place is. I said a decimal place is the position of a digit after a comma. So now to round off, now number 1, we are going to round off the 1 to 2 decimal places. Where do we start? For you to round this off, you need to know the position of the digits in this number. So as we did when we found the place values, then you must know the position. So because we say round off to 2 decimal places, it means we need 2 numbers after a comma. So as we need 2 numbers after a comma, then you have to check the second value after a comma. This is what needs to be rounded up or to be rounded down. But to round it up or down, because it is the second one, then we will be guided by the third decimal value. So if the third decimal value is less than 5, then we are going to leave out the decimal value. But if it is more than 5, then we are going to adjust upwards. So now that this decimal value is 9, 9 is more than 4, then we are going to adjust upwards. What do we mean by adjusting upwards? When we adjust it upwards, it means I'm going to add 1 to the second decimal value. Therefore, the answer that I'm going to have is going to be 73.64 because now my 3 is adjusted upwards. Let us have a look at the second example. The second example was to to round off the very same number to 1 decimal place. So when we round off to 1 decimal place, remember the number that we had, let me write it again so that you can see, is 73.639. So now we say we are rounding off to 1 decimal place. So basically what we are saying is that we need 1 value after a comma. So for us to have that 1 value after a comma, you should be knowing which value is occupying that position. The value that is occupying the position now is 6. So since 6 is occupying the position, then we look at the value immediately after 6, which is 3. This is what will guide us as to whether are we rounding up or are we rounding down. So now, because 3 is less than 5, we are going to eliminate the 39. So now the answer that we are going to have now this time is going to be 73.6. because we have eliminated the 3. I hope now you have your pens, you have your papers and your calculators. We are working together. The first question, round off 27.847 to the nearest unit. Now we've dealt with the decimal values. I hope you know what the unit is. In this number, the unit is 7. So because 7 is our unit, we say you round off to the nearest unit. Implication is that Because after the comma, we are having three values, we will be guided by the first decimal value. The first decimal value will tell us as to whether are we rounding up or are we rounding down. Now looking at the first decimal value, it is greater than 4. So if it is greater than 4, from 5 upwards, we adjust upwards. So now because 8 is greater than 4, implication is that we are going to add 1 to 7. And then as we add 1 to 7, we say we are adjusting it upwards. So if we adjust it upwards, therefore, the answer that we are having as we round off is going to be 28. I hope now you understand how to round off, even if you are having the decimal. So now let's move to the next question. The next one is to round off 1,684 to the nearest 100. So remember what I said. For you to be able to work with this, you need to know your place values. So to know our place values, if we say to the nearest 100, then you need to know the value which is occupying the 100th. So now 1,001, we say it's 1,000. We can start by drawing our table once more and say we are having 1, we are having 6, we are having 8, and we are having 4. So now we say 1, it's 1,000. Let me just write T to symbolize the 1,000. And then 6, it's 100th. And then 8, it's a 10th. And 4, it's a unit. Therefore, because we are rounding to the nearest 100, it means our focus is on 6 now. So if our focus is on 6, therefore we will be guided by 8. 8 will guide us as to whether are we rounding off 6 upwards, are we adjusting upwards, or are we adjusting it downwards. So looking at this, therefore we are saying, because 8, which is immediately after the 6 that it's occupying the 100th, therefore, because it is more than 4, we are going to adjust upward. Remember, I said when we adjust upward, we add 1. So we are going to add 1 to 6, and then 6 plus 1, when we adjust 6 upwards, is going to be 7. So if we adjust 6 upwards and it becomes 7, therefore we are saying to round off to the nearest 100, we are going to replace these other numbers with zeros. And then now to round it off, we are going to have 1,700. I said, I want to recap quickly. If we are having 1,684, you identify the place value so that you can get which value it's a 100, and then we found that 6 is 100. Therefore, 8, because it comes immediately after 6, will guide us as to whether do we round up or do we round down. Therefore, because 8 is more than 4, then we round up, we add 1, and then our answer is 1,700. The next section, remember, we've already covered rounding off. Now we will cover round off to the nearest 10. Okay, what is key now is that the reason why we're dealing with the rounding off to the nearest 10 is because as you look at the South African currency, the minimum currency that we have is 10 cents. As I said at the beginning of this lesson, the prices are in such a way that they've got 99 cents, 99 rand, etc. at the end. And we need to round off always to the nearest 10. So this is so necessary. It's one of the most important aspects so that you need to master so that you can be able to round off in case you are paying with cash, you know exactly how much change you will get. Okay, so now always when there is a change, when the change is 8 cents or it's 9 cents or 7 cents, there is rounding that is taking place. So how is the rounding done? We still using the very same principle to say, if it is less than 5, we round down. If it is more than 4, then it is rounded up. But always rounded up to the nearest 10 because the minimum South African currency is 10 cents that is used now. Okay, so this is just what I was explaining. I want to take you through to the example. Our first example, round off 8 Rand 39 to the nearest 10. To round off 8 Rand 39 to the nearest 10 means that because in South African currency we don't have the 9 cents, we need to round it off either to the 30 cent or to the 40 cent. So let us have a look at what is it that we are looking at to round it off. Okay, now because we have 8 Rand 39, we are saying to round it off, we are going to look at this place values. We are having 8 Rand, and then if you have 8 Rand 39, it's like you have 8 Rand plus 39 cents. So I hope you know that the other way of writing 39 cents is to write 0.39. So now if you have 8 Rand plus 39 cents and we have to round it off to the nearest 10, we are rounding off to the nearest 10 by looking at the whole decimal. So when we look at the whole decimal, we have 39 cents. We have to check as to whether are we rounding off 39 cents upwards or downwards. But looking at 39 cents itself, we will be looking at the last digit of 39 cents. The last digit of 39 cents, which is 9, is going to be more than 4. So it means that this is rounded upward. And then if we round it upward, this will be 8 Rand plus 40 cents. So if it's 8 Rand plus 40 cents, then our answer will be 8 Rand 40. So this is what has been worked out here. This is how to get your 8 Rand 40. Just remember that you don't do the rounding the same way. The way you do the rounding when you do the round off is not the same way that we do the rounding when we round off money. Remember, with money, what is key is the last decimal value. Because South African currency has got 2 decimal values, we look at the second decimal value, and that will determine as to whether are we rounding up or are we rounding down. So I think now you've understood that if we have 8 Rand plus 0.39, you look at 39 cents as a value as a whole, and then you take the 9 cents, and then this is what will guide you that then we round up, and the answer is 8 Rand 40. So now let us have a look at this activity that we need to do together. This activity reads as follows. When buying items from the shop, Pule's change was 49 Rand 13, and then Tshego's change was 25 Rand 79. Then we have to determine the actual amount each one of them will get as a change. Because remember, when you pay, there's no 7 cents that you will get. And there's no 1 cent that you will get, but rather the amount will be rounded off to the nearest 10. So what are the common errors that you are doing? Basically, when you are doing calculations with rounding off to the nearest 10, you round it off as if you are rounding it to the nearest 5. And because now there's no more 5 cents as the minimum currency in South Africa, take note that we always round off to the nearest 10. So now let us see. Number 1, let us look at what Pule will get. Let us dissect the amount that Pule has got, 49 Rand 13. If we dissect it, we will have 49 Rand plus 13 cents. So now, if we have 13 cents, remember I said the second decimal value is what is playing the most important part. So because the second decimal value is less than 5, then we are going to eliminate this 3. And then the answer that we are going to have then is going to be 49 Rand plus 10 cents. So it means if we eliminate it, then it changes and it becomes a 10 cent. So now, if we take 49 Rand and we add it to the 10 cent, then what we will get will be the 49 Rand 10 cent. And then the same as we look at what Tshepo will get as well. Remember, for Tshepo, we have 25 Rand 79. So because we have 25 Rand 79, once more, we are saying 25 Rand 79 is similar to 25 rand plus 0.79 cent. Then you can see the 79 cent is very close to 80 cent because 9 is greater than 4. So if 9 is greater than 4, then this will then be adjusted upwards. And then 0.79 will now be 80 cent. So now we are saying 25 rand plus 0.80 will then give us 25 rand 80. So this is the calculation that we had to do based on this. Therefore, we are saying Pule will get 49 rand 10 cent, 3 cent will be eliminated, and Tshepo will now get 25 rand 80. Let me just write 25 rand 80 here, that Tshepo will get.